Hey Vine Life Church family, I want to bring you a Project Home update. It's that time of the month when we get to share with you the headlines of where we're up to. And today's no different. I want to give you the headlines of where we're up to in terms of timeline, and also drill down into some headlines around costs and financials, just to bring you all up to speed and up to date with where everything's at. First thing to say is that every day that we move forward, we're moving one day closer for us as a community to be back together and to be in this brand new home of ours, which God is providing for us. We're really, really excited about that and all that lies ahead. The headline is that everything is going smoothly at the moment, and actually we have a provisional plans to be purchasing the building in and around the 16th of December. Solicitors are working at the moment in terms of the anchor sale and tying that in with the purchase of the building. And it's looking like the timings are all going to line up for an exchange within the next few weeks, and then a completion on the 16th, in and around the 16th of December. So that's super encouraging that those things are all happening and all syncing up together. The other thing that I really want to dive into and take a bit of time over is to just talk through the financials. One of the things that I realize is that we're busy here in the church office. The operations and the admin part of this whole project is kind of squirreling away every single day. It's interaction with solicitors, estate agents, and those various things of pulling everything together, which makes this happen. But obviously, the big part of that is the financial provision that actually makes this project viable. I want to walk through some of that with you today. I've got some things that will come up on the screen. We'll kind of walk through this together. But I want to talk to you about three things. The funding the purchase. I want to talk to you about refurbishment, that kind of phase that happens once we purchase the building. And then actually dive into looking at just the projections around the monthly financial costs, so that everyone's just really up to date and connected to all things financial. So let's have a look at the funding scenario around this purchase. So firstly, up on the screen, you'll see that we have here the costs and then the funds. So let's walk through this. The purchase price of the building is 2.5 million. On top of that, there are moving costs are associated. That's everything from solicitors' fees and fees in terms of acquisition of the building, fees in terms of selling the anchor. Those come out at 75,000. So we have a total cost of this project, which come in at 2.575 million. Big sum of money, but what's exciting about that big sum of money is that when we start to look at the funds that are in place, we can see how all of this stacks up. So we work with Charity Bank. We've had a relationship with them for over 20 years, and they've been brilliant as we have kind of they've walked alongside us in this project, given us advice, done their due diligence on our feasibility and around that. And actually, as we dive into that, we will be mortgaging the building with them for 1.33 million. On top of that, we have the incredible provision of £432,000, which makes up our building fund currently as it stands. On top of that, we've seen many of you within community and some outside the community step in to bridge through donor loans of 500,000. On top of that, we have the anchor sale, which right now is looking at bringing us in the equity of £283,000, which goes in. On top of that, over the last couple of years, we've been able to save £120,000. I'll come onto that in a little bit more detail when we dive into the kind of monthly outgoings, but that's incredible to think that actually as part of this process, not only have you as a church community sowed in, we as a church community as well have been able to save and put money aside. On top of that savings, there's also £23,000 that will come back in the form of rebates. That's really just in terms of the ongoing process of moving towards this building. There's been costs that we've incurred that we've been managed to pay out. There are various different fees that have sat in solicitors' bank accounts, and £23,000 of that will come back to us at the point of the purchase, which is super encouraging. That gives us a headline total figure of 2.692 million, which the good thing about that is that total is bigger than that total, which means that we have an initial refurb budget of £117,000, which is amazing. Amazing to think as we kind of step into this next phase of having purchased the building. Obviously, with the window of time while we can't currently meet, we have the opportunity to utilize that fund as a refurb to be able to dive into that first phase of refurb, to be able to do all that we need to do in the building. So let's talk about that refurbishment. That initial fund, as we said, is £117,000. And what that looks like is that the money that's available to us after the purchase, which really goes to these three things, and they begin with R. It is repairing the building, repainting the building, and replacing certain items that we need to be able to make the building work for us. That's being able to take what we do here at the anchor, move that operation to be able to open up the anchor in the new building. It means thinking through as well, recognizing that actually a lot of what we have as a church community in terms of the infrastructure of chairs, PA, lighting, that will all come across, that will all be part of that first phase. We have a lot of things that are already in place. And so actually that initial refurb really is about repairing the building, just recognizing it's been empty for a few years now. And so there's some core maintenance work that we need to do on the building, repainting, probably recarpeting in certain areas, and basically bringing that building back to life in a way that actually makes it not just usable for us, but actually usable for the city, so that we can begin to love and serve the city and using all that amazing space in a season when our city really needs it. And so then thinking about the more long-term refurb costs, there are things that we would want to do in the building, but we can take that refurb very much in phases. And those phases can be built around finance coming in. It can also be built around certain projects and certain things that we feel like we want to reach out and do, specifically as we love and serve the city. But those longer term works will be in and around the £300,000 to £500,000 mark. And like I said, we can build those out in phases and we can take our time with those phases. But ultimately, that's connected really to growth, trading, and further donations. And that growth, trading, and further donations really is just recognizing that as a building that we start to bring back into life, we begin to use, that actually we will generate income through the building. There are opportunities for us to grow as a community, and also recognizing that actually we'll take time over the next few years to think about specific projects that we want to sow into financially as a community that will open up opportunities for that building to be more effectively used. And so that looks like the potential down the line of being able to improve some of the roof on the building. There are some flat roofs that look like they need some more longer term maintenance. We also want to put a lift into the building. And also in doing that and opening up the space, we want to put in a new stairwell. So again, those are projects that will come down the line and things that we can move towards as a community together and take very much in phases. All right, so diving into the monthly costs, and one of the good things that we have been able to do over the course of the last few months is, again, working with Charity Bank, is putting in place the feasibility study for like, how do we make this work? And actually the robust process that we have to go through even in borrowing the money for the mortgage actually means that actually we need to present those figures and our projections on into the future in a way that actually will be robustly challenged through the process of even getting the mortgage. But I wanted to highlight some of that to you just so you guys are aware in terms of taking on a big building and actually recognizing that there are costs associated with that and an increased cost as we move forward, that actually our thinking and the robustness around how we've made plans for that is very much in place. So let's take a look initially where we're at currently. Let's have a look at kind of the costings around our facilities currently. Those are made up by two things really. It's the mortgage we have here on the anchor, which obviously will go as we sell the anchor, and also the cost that we have in facilitating church through hiring the powerhouse. And that comes to a total of £3,468 per month. That's our outgoings. So as we move into the new building, initially, those costs actually come down. The irony of it is that as a mortgage for the first couple of years, only paying the interest, that actually our initial costs go excuse me, down to £3,169. So that's for a couple of years. That couple of years is a really good window of time for us to establish ourselves in the building. It actually gives us the breathing space to be able to develop things in the building in terms of the Anchor Coffee House, thinking about a small conferencing facility, other ways that we want to utilize the building in terms of compassion and thinking about how we open up the space to love and serve the city. All of those things we get to have the breathing room over the first couple of years to really build those into the building, begin to get projects up and running. And so that initial phase of a couple of years sees us actually reduce our outgoings. refurbs, which is amazing. And then as we step into the future, the mortgage then does make a jump up to £6,220 a month. So that is obviously a jump from where we've been at £3,468. But I think it's worth just acknowledging that even in that jump, that jump per month, actually over the course of the year is an increase to us of around £33,000. And the interesting thing for us, again, in terms of feasibility, in recognizing that will be an increase, we do recognize that actually we want to increase our income streams in the church by making the building really work well for us. We want to obviously create the space for all the things we're dreaming about in terms of how we love and serve the city. But interestingly, over the last couple of years, like I said, we've been able to make savings of around £120,000. And so thinking about the jump up of around £33,000 a year, that actually we've been able to be more than saving that amount over the last couple of years per year. And so actually thinking about just making the growth step into this building, it gives us a great deal of confidence that we're not overexposing ourselves. We're not creating a great deal of risk when it comes to the increase in finances that will jump up in a couple of years' time. So I think it's helpful to gain that sort of headline view. Recognize I'm just giving you the headlines of where we're at financially with the purchase of the building, where we're at in terms of thinking through that initial phase of refurb, what that actually looks like to get us to a place where at some point into the new year that we'll be able to meet together in some form, but also beginning to think through how we love and serve the city through the building. But then also just thinking and drilling down into those figures and the feasibility of this building moving forward in terms of our outgoing costs. Recognize that those are just the headlines. But hopefully it gives you a bit of a picture and a bit of an update about where we're at financially, where we need to be financially, and then moving forward into our kind of longer term future where we're going to be at with this building. And so we certainly are really encouraged by the by the key steps along the way, especially working with Charity Bank and recognizing that actually that key relationship and recognizing that actually as they do their due diligence on us, as we build out our projections, that actually they were really encouraged by everything that we'd mapped out, so much so that they were confident to lend us that money against the building. Listen, we are really excited about where we're heading in the next few months with this building. We know that that is a combination of your prayer, God's dream that he's planted in our hearts for this building and how it loves and serves the city. But more than that, it's been your financial contribution to this project. And again, we just want to honor that. We want to say thank you for partnering with us as a community together as we step into this project. We cannot wait for the day when we get to celebrate all that God's done, not just in a destination of finding a building and making it home, but really in being able to be a community that thinks through and dreams with God about how that space genuinely gets to impact our city for the kingdom, bring people into new relationship with Jesus, help the poor, the lost, the lonely, disenfranchised, how that building can become a home and a place of life and a place of hope for them. So thank you so much for everything that you have done, everything you continue to do in this process of us acquiring this building. And like I say, we cannot wait to be together in that space, worshiping God, being a community, and loving and serving this amazing city.